Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farba. Ukraine is continuing to take the war deeper into Russian territory with another reported strike on a key military communications hub near Moscow, following weeks of attacks on energy infrastructure. At the same time, in a rare public admission, Vladimir Putin has acknowledged fuel shortages inside Russia, while also becoming the face of the ruling United Russia Party ahead of parliamentary elections later this year. Now, to understand what all this means, we're joined now by Louis Wierenga, lecturer in international relations at the Baltic Defence College. Good to have you with us.
Great to be back, Sasha.
So let's start with this recent strike here. So that was about yesterday. This Dubna Space Communications Center is about 500 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Second time in just 8 days. How critical, I mean, this is a lot of space technology, also intelligence, military intelligence. How significant is striking that target now several times? And what does it say ultimately about Ukraine's methods here?
Well, first of all, it's significant enough to have Vladimir Putin publicly say that things are not going according to plan. He does not publicly admit faults. This is incredibly rare. The second thing I think that it does is it shows that there's a turn of tide. I mean, the Russians have been trying to break Ukraine's resolve, morale, and will to fight. And it looks like what's happening is it's the other way around. Ukraine is now the 5th year of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. But as of the last year or so, Ukraine has really upped the ante in terms of being able to strike Russia deep inside their territory. And first they did it away from the two centers of gravity, St. Petersburg and Moscow, and now they're starting to do it there. And this drone evolution has been a couple of years in the making, and both countries have been moving in step to adopt and develop drones which are capable of delivering payloads of explosives several kilometers away with no risk to the operator. But Ukraine lacked this capability. They lacked the drone and missile capabilities for sustained long-range strikes deep inside of Russia as late as last year in 2025. And now we're starting to see the opposite. And that's because it's a combination of motivation to survive and resilience, a very talented, sharp, and educated population, a good industrial base, and access to a lot of key imported components is really giving them a drone and missile complex that's very, very capable and can credibly threaten key infrastructure up to around 2,000 clicks from the border. So, some analysts have estimated that more than a fifth of Russia's total refining capacity may have been already knocked off online. And they're starting to hit them where it hurts, and they're taking away something else, which is a loss of popularity for Putin and depending on how you take polls from inside of Russia, a lack of support from the Russian public for sustaining Putin's war of aggression. Doesn't mean that he's going to change his mind because, he's a dictator, but still, as many know, Putin is very, very cautious about even a whisper of color revolution. So I think that this is one of the most significant aspects thus far.
Mm-hmm. I want to get to also Putin in just a moment, but also, as you said, in a different way, the turn of the tide. I mean, this is also something we have to be careful about mentioning that. But still, this is something that was told to us by General Kellogg, actually the former advisor to President Trump on Ukraine. Speaking to TVP World, in fact, just yesterday, and just reading a quote of his, and on the idea of feeling pressure, I think now the Russians are starting to feel the pressure, and you see that it's how they work. You see Lavrov right now saying, well, the spirit of Alaska, excuse me, I don't know what you're talking about. What he's talking about is really he's got a problem. Putin's got a problem. So how significant, as you've already said, is that? What do we make of that quote? And really, what does that result in ultimately?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because him uniting himself with United Russia after nearly 2 decades is very bizarre. So there's a lot of speculation. I mean, of course, the more Ukraine has these types of small victories in terms of really striking and just embarrassing and showcasing how they have, embarrassing the Russians and showcasing how they're able to penetrate them right in the heart of where Putin and his circle care about, Moscow and St. Petersburg. The meat grinder continues in the front line. They're not able to push the Ukrainians back. I think that, again, Putin says that there have been, quote unquote, create problems when he's talking about the strikes on Russian infrastructure. But it's, there are a lot of things that we have to take into consideration. It seems like Putin still has a hammerlock on power there, although consolidating support, maybe there are some slight rifts. Ukraine has been able to not eliminate, but wait away at Russia's air defense, and that can magnify the impact of the strikes. And now Russia is experiencing a shortage of these S-300 missile interceptors, which are a surface-to-air missile system that's been really crucial to Russia's air defense against cruise and ballistic missiles. And also, the fuel and air defense shortage comes at a time when a lot of Russian citizens are already expressing willingness to end the war. So there was a Ukrainian think tank that said 81% of Russians said that they supported ending the war tomorrow, but they only polled 1,600 respondents by telephone. But I think it's telling, because in Russia, even the slightest amount of dissent can be met with pretty severe consequences. So it'd be interesting to see a larger number from a different reputable polling firm to see that. Then there's also economic woes, and the controlled election is in September. As we all know, Russian elections are very tightly controlled by the Kremlin.
On that election, if I could just jump in briefly,
Sure.
I want to get your sense on that one, Louis, because you mentioned, let's go to the heart of it being Putin, also right now putting himself out there as that face of the United Russia Party. This is something he hasn't done since about 2007. What do you make of it? Why is he doing this now? Is this going to strengthen his bid for later? Is this going to be a liability for him down the road? Why make this move now?
Well, I think there are a lot of peculiar and quite frankly speaking, bizarre aspects about this. First, this election, as I mentioned, is tightly controlled, but I would say that this is a litmus test of social dissent in Russia, with all of the things that I spoke about previously in the interview. And certain polls put the United Russia Party in the mid-30s, while Putin has seen his public support fall to the lowest that it's been since he started the full-scale invasion in 2022. And Putin does not intend to stop. His intention is to keep waging war against Ukraine no matter what. And there's a dilemma that he faces, because he needs to either confront everything by trying to strengthen United Russia or shield himself from the fallout. And, there was a report in Financial Times that said that Russian society, interestingly enough, directs most of their frustration at the United Russia Party, not at Putin himself, which I think is interesting. Okay. And then they just went the United Russia Party went all Putin, and Putin went all United Russia. And there are dissenting opinions by experts. So there's even Filippov is the author of a forthcoming book about Russia's blogger community. And he stated in that making Vladimir Putin the face of the most unpopular political party in the country is an incomprehensible decision that could only be made by somebody living in a parallel reality.
Right.
So I think that's strange.
Strange, and as I think also, but interesting at the same time, and all those pressures, as you mentioned already, for economic, the fuel shortages, now also in politics. We'll see what kind of impact that will have later on in the year. But I mean, the Ukrainians continue to push this as much as they can. Look, thanks for that. We'll have to close it there. Louis Wierenga there from Baltic Defence College. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.